Peter Pan, The Quest for the Never Book is an animated film from 2018. This is directed by Chandrasekaran. I apologise if I've mispronounced that. And it's written by Romain van Leemt with a voice cast including Michelle Creber, Michael Dobson, Matt Hill, Michelle Molineux and Sarah Natochenny. And again, I apologise if I've mispronounced any of those names. And I quite like the story of Peter Pan. I really like J.M. Barrie's work, at least the books that I've read. And I decided that this was worth watching. And I can honestly say that as a children's film, it's fine. It's definitely more of a children's film, less so of a family film. The only thing I really didn't care for was the contemporary attire, because a lot of the characters, namely Wendy and her brothers, are dressed in contemporary clothing, and I feel like there's just something more magical about having it set at the beginning of the 20th century, as the classic story is. And I know it's such a small thing, but it really stood out to me as being something that I didn't really like. It didn't really feel like pretty much any other version of Peter Pan that I'd ever seen. Maybe they were doing this to stand out. Maybe they thought it would be more appealing to children. And if that's the case, absolutely fine. The story itself is okay. They're having these festivities. Everybody's really joyful. It's the longest day in Neverland, and it's going to be a really great, happy day. But Captain Hook is causing problems. And it revolves around this Never book that Captain Hook wants to get hold of. And I'll say no more than that about the specifics. The narrative does manage to sustain itself for the entire duration. It's about an hour and a half, and I feel like there's enough going on that even for younger viewers or people like me where there's not the best attention span, there's enough there to keep it captivating. It's not the worst narrative ever. It makes sense, everything flows well, the pacing's fine, there's enough going on that it never felt too boring. But as I said, I feel like it's still very much a children's film. I feel like the humour is going to appeal more to children. And obviously a lot of the dialogue, understandably, is definitely more suited to children than older viewers, which is not a criticism. If it's a children's film, that's absolutely fine. Films can be aimed at children rather than families. But if you're an older viewer who likes Peter Pan, then I'd say it's worth watching. If you don't care for Peter Pan, if you've never seen any Peter Pan, then I'd say don't watch this, because I don't think it should ever be somebody's introduction to Peter Pan. And if you don't really like Peter Pan in general, I don't think you'll get anything out of this. But younger viewers certainly might. But that being said, even for younger viewers, I'd like to think that this won't be their introduction to Peter Pan. But nevertheless, it's an okay film. The animation quality is okay. I didn't love it immediately. It took me a bit of time to get used to it. But once I did, the animation was not too bad. The voice acting's absolutely fine. The characters are reasonable. The only thing I really didn't like, and as I said, it seems like such a small film, but a small thing rather, but it really adds to the atmosphere, is the contemporary clothing. It just was really jarring, and I really didn't like it. It is a small thing in the grand scheme of things. Is it a Peter Pan film? It feels enough like a Peter Pan film, so if you do like Peter Pan in general, I think you'll get something out of this. But as I said, I would suggest not making this anybody's first Peter Pan film. I think it goes without saying that the number one recommendation would be the Disney animation. But there are some pretty decent live action ones out there as well. So in general, it's not a bad film. Peter Pan, The Quest for the Never book is definitely more of a children's film than a family film. But if you're curious, if you're a Peter Pan film fan, I think you might enjoy bits of it. And in general, it wasn't horrendous. I wouldn't watch it again, but I think as a one-time watch, it was not a bad experience.